In the course of your work, what are the main issues and challenges that you experience in your community before the COVID-19 pandemic?
Okay, my name is Ememukon, Quebec Women Development and Resource Center. We are conducting a research into the impact and coping mechanisms of women during the COVID-19 lockdown. And we are looking at this considering the prevailing situation in the Niger Delta, where there is a heavy level of pollution, air pollution, water pollution, and amidst food insecurity because the extractive industry has contributed to destruction of farmlands and destruction of women's livelihoods. And we are also experiencing manifestations of climate change. So we are discussing with women in the circumstances of the prevailing situation and the COVID-19 global pandemic. How are women coping? How are women coping with the impact of food insecurity, with the impact of pollution, with the impact of climate change? And now we are faced with the pandemic and in the midst of absence of functional health facilities and with preventive measures that has to do with regular washing of hands in a situation where communities do not have access to clean water. So we are looking at coping mechanisms of women. How are women peculiarly being impacted? How is this situation affecting women relationships? How is it also leading to increased sexual and domestic violence? And what are groups, individuals, government, and other social networks? How are they responding to this situation?
My name is Blessing Bosco, and then I'm from River State, from Asayato local government area, which is Buguma in particular. And then I am 55 years old. And I think that's about that. And then I work as a human rights person. And then I actually started this work in Lagos. That was in 2003. But I actually don't know my left from my right, but I started working in this area. When I came into Port Harcourt, we were parts of the persons who taught me somehow, into knowing what human rights work is all about. Right? And then on the side, I do books as my business. I sell books.
Existing challenges in your community before the COVID-19?
Okay, the existing challenges in my community was, the community, actually we don't have what is called women, human rights work and all of that. It's not there. There are quite a lot of NGOs along the line as I walk around, development work in Port Harcourt. I have met a few persons who say, we are doing this in our community, we are doing this in our community and all of that. But I actually have not seen any impact in the areas where they say they work. Myself, I'm not part of it, so I don't even know what it is when it comes to my community.
Okay.
But I also want to say that over the time, and then from what I have also learned today, I think, and then from you too, Chief Emem, that I'm going to go back to my community. I've not done that before, but I'm going to do it. It's my word to you. I'm going to start doing something about women's rights in my community, getting them involved, and then seeing how it is going to, as time goes on, how they are going to be included in decision making in my community and all of that. So when it comes to COVID-19 and its impact in my community, it wasn't a very wonderful one, because the artisanary what is it called, refinery is what gives kerosene in our community, and that's what most women get themselves involved with. Now my area, my village is a riverine area. They don't have lands to farm with.
Yes.
So most times the occupation there is fishing. And then the waters are bad, so you discover that they don't go for fishing anymore, like they used to before. And then those who also go to people to, because of this, these boys in the creek, cooking, crude oil and all of that. The women are also afraid of going there, because most times when they get to those places, they rape them and all of that, so they don't go to all of those places. So they now resolve into selling kerosene and some other things in the community. So while they do those kerosene thing, it was working for them. But before the COVID-19, there was clampdowns, and then they burned their boats, they burned their refinery.
Who burnt the boats?
The military. moved in and then they burnt their boats, burnt their, burnt the cooking sites and all of that. So that made kerosene to, to go up. Because at the end of the day, some people had little, want to sell it very high. So at the end of the day, they discovered that people were actually scrambling to make ends meet. Food was not, in fact, sometimes if you're passing with a nylon bag and all of that, some people just snatch the bag from you. If they see somebody cooking, in fact, it was that bad. If they see somebody cooking, they just wait for the person to finish cooking. As they finish, and then possibly you eat, and the next thing they do is that they go carry your pot of soup and carry it in. That's the effect of poverty and all of that. Before the COVID-19, and then when it was the COVID-19 time, it was worse. Because there was no, since the cooking site for the artisanal refinery was burnt down. Kerosene was not nowhere to be found. So people were actually scrambling to make sure that to make life meet, to make ends meet. And then when it comes to water aspect, also you discover that in my place we only have wells, and then there is this general water that comes. So it takes time before the water comes. And then if you don't have water in your house, you resort into drinking well water, which you don't even know what happens over the night before the day breaks. And then those who also sell pure water in the community, and then were able to get one pure water sachet to 20 naira. So it was that bad.
So considering the already existing situation on issue of water in the community, how do you and other people feel about being able to comply to regular washing of hands?
Okay, when it comes to washing of the hands, it's not when you see water you wash your hands. Some people, wash their hands, and particularly when if you go out and come back, that's if you walk out of your house and come back and all that, you need to wash your hands and all of that. But some people were able to do that because they were able to get water. But most times, it is not registered, so people tend to forget and they don't wash. But some people can do that.
As a woman, what has been the most difficult impact for you?
For me, it has to do with funds. Difficult because when I talk about funds, before the COVID-19, there was, as if money was mocked out of the society. That was before the COVID-19. And then when the lockdown now came into place, it became impossible to get money. Because, like I said, I trade on books. And then when it comes to organizing meetings and carrying out some duties, and sometimes there was a case of a little girl of 4 years who was raped by a 50-year-old man. It was difficult to be able to get money to be able to take care of that aspect. But somehow we had to do something about it. Some women, the women who saw it reported the matter, and then quickly I had to take it up from there. They arrested the man, and then he was detained for some days, and then after that he was released. And then the person who came to bail him had to stand to make sure that he is produced immediately after the lockdown. And then once the court opens, they are really important for that. But before then, the families start begging that they want to settle out of the police and all of that, don't want to be to get their child's image is important and all of that. So for that, much bleeding and all of that. Of course, when the parent says we don't want this matter to go further than what it is, you don't have a choice but to stay action.
I am Pastor Glory Alexander Thomas. I'm from Akwa Ibom State, Nigeria, precisely from Ibom local government area in Akwa Ibom State. I'm a pastor, a resident pastor of the church in Akwa Ibom, and also I am the president of Alauchi Women Development Initiative in Akwa Ibom, still in Akwa Ibom State.
What are the issues or the challenges in your community that motivated you and your colleagues in Alauchi to begin to carry out some activities in your community? What are those issues in your community?
Okay, like in Ibono is a host community for ExxonMobil. ExxonMobil, Ibono is their host community, and they flare gas in my community, and nobody is saying anything. In fact, it's a normal routine. in my community, and not just ExxonMobil. We have Frontier, and also there's this other one that is coming. In fact, they have been there. They have started flaying their gas also. The Network Explorer. They have started flaying their gas also. So when I look at it and discuss that with some women in my community, I said, we just came up with something that we need to start creating awareness among the women, letting them know the impact of the gas flare that is being flared in our community, and also the corroded zinc in our community, the water that is already polluted, and also the impact in our health. I think that these are some of the things that really motivated me.
Thank you for sharing that. Can you talk about other impacts of their activities on your community?
Like I talk about the corroded zinc roofs like that, and the impact on our health. Like the woman, before now you see an old woman, she's still looking strong, she's looking beautiful, but right now, sometimes from 30 something, in fact from 20 something now, some women, their mercy sees. I have 2 women in my organization now. They've tried everything possible to restore their menstrual cycle, but the thing is not coming. So I also advise them to go to the hospital. When they went to the hospital, the doctor said it's a natural phenomenon. Just 20 something. The other one is 20 something, while that one is about 35 or 36, and that ends the story. So it has not been like that, but for now. And another thing, the impacts in our skin. In our skin, we had a lot of heat rashes, and there's this thing that is like, I don't know if it's cancer or what. Let me not say cancer because since I'm not a medical personnel, but it's so obvious that the thing is hurting in the skin. While you are seeing now, I think there was a documentary that I did. I had to open my clothes to show the impact in my skin, and that is the same thing with others, especially, and the children are highly affected by this gas flare on their health. There was a time we had this outbreak of cholera in my community. We had outbreak, about 200 and something children died in that community because of we had this heavy oil spill. So this oil spill, the oil spilled through the river and also through the water channels, the stream. They didn't know, so they continued using it. Before you know, there was this outbreak, and that was how they died. We had
How have these activities been impacted by what you have just told me, by the oil companies and
before now, our people, they don't really need to go deep down the Atlantic Ocean to fish. They can still fish within the Kwa River, but now they have to go deep down the Atlantic Ocean to fish. Last week there was an incident that some people went fishing. Since you need to go down deep there to fish, there was 3 persons died. They lost their boat, they lost the engine, they lost everything. Before now, it doesn't used to be so. You don't need to go that far. But when they went in there, the wave was much, and there was when the activities of ExxonMobil was going on, the vibration also in the Atlantic, it also affects the people. It affected them on their way going. They have not even done anything yet, on their way going. So they lost everything. This is how so far this thing has affected the community. And also in terms of catching their fish, catching the fish. Most time they go out in the night, return in the morning with just a little catch. But before that, they can just go in the morning, before 9, 10, they are back, start selling their fish. Buyers are already there waiting for them, but it's not so. And also, let me not forget, at the cost of abstraction, they have also caused this house vibration. You are there, you feel like somebody is knocking at your door, you go out, nobody's there. The vibration is much. And I've seen some men now, some people, not just men, some women, when they talk, their hands shake. Their hands are shaking, even their voice. A woman or a man that is within the ages of 30, something 40, the voice is already shaking because of the impact of the vibration. The vibration is so much that even when you are sleeping, you feel like somebody is moving you. Nobody is moving you, just the vibration.
How do you feel about that lockdown, and what was your experience during that period of the lockdown?
It was a wonderful experience. I say wonderful because at that time, you said 2 to 3 months. I think, to my best understanding, we had this lockdown for like 4 to 5 months. Yes, 4 to 5 months. It was so wonderful. Before now, already the catch is reduced.
Yeah.
The buyers are no longer coming because even if they come, they don't get what they come to the community for.
Yes.
So they have all stayed away. So now with the pandemic, it became worse because even the little catch was not longer there. Nobody was ready to go out since it was a total lockdown.
Yeah.
So you don't go out. People were now reserved to their, environment. When we were just there, it was terrible. It was indeed terrible. To me, it was like the case of the Bible that people started eating their children. Yes, it was that terrible because nobody was to help each other. My hands are tied, your hands are tied. So who is to help another person? Since our, number one, our livelihood has been taken away. Now with the pandemic now, we are just, in fact, we are in a fix. Let me put it that way. So it was terrible in my community.
Did you have any experience with the state task force, or did the state set up some structures to address the pandemic or carry out state responses on the pandemic? And did you have any experience with them?
Yes, the state task force, they were more militant than task force. Yeah, I think the main aim was to protect and to guide the people. But at the end of the day, it turned to be militancy. Militancy in the sense that they see you as a woman, because anyhow now, a woman must come out. When they see you as a woman going out from your home, you are harassed. Most women in my community were harassed. Some that even managed to do a little catch. They tried to sell it out. Their fish and their crayfish was grounded. Yes, by the task force. Some, they took it away from them, and those women were left with nothing. You could see women in tears.
Yeah.
You could see women broken. You could see women. At a point, some started using they managed to sneak to their farms to remove cassava.
Yeah.
To just boil the cassava and eat with their children. So the task force was heavy on the women. In fact, to me, it's like the task force was set just for the women. Yeah, I see it that way, because if you look at what is happening as a woman, you are a life giver, not just a caregiver.
Yeah.
That was what during the pandemic, I keep preaching that women are not just caregivers, but they are life givers. Yes. So the task force that was set by the government was on our neck, and that makes it more difficult for us, our children, and our husbands.
You mentioned something about water pollution. So how do you reconcile the issue of water pollution and lack of access to water to the fact that women have to wash their hands regularly?
Well, that was another experience that I think I need to talk about. Already the water was polluted before now.
Yeah.
So what we did was to buy water from the sellers. And sometimes you need to trek to buy the water.
Yeah.
Sometimes because transportation, like everything was blocked. So it was heavy. It was really heavy. We just need to trek a distance to buy water and bring it to the market square where the women need to wash their hands. In their homes, there was a little follow-up in their homes since the water was already polluted, and there are no option than to still use the water.
Were there issues of domestic violence or sexual abuse of women and girls during the lockdown?
Yes, it was too much. It was too much. And I started wondering, could it be because the women are the ones that go out and leave their other older children at home in search of greener pasture or something? Because we recorded very high rate of rape, child abuse.
Yeah.
Another thing that was really happening that was terrible was father to child rape, brother to sister rape. It was terrible, and I think it was because there was a total lockdown, so everybody was confined to one place. Now already the family is affected, that they had to come back to live together, but since the mother had to leave and other children, they started seeing themselves like a sex tool to satisfy their urge.
Yeah.
So the father will go into the daughter and the brother to the sister. It became like a normal thing in the community. Yes.
Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
What actions do you think government should do to help affected people?
Okay, like for me, I think the government should come in and render a helping hand to the community people. Although they gave last month or so, they gave palliative. The private state government gave palliative, and they just gave the last palliative, which was the second one. That was just on Friday, last week Friday.
How was it distributed? How was it managed?
Yeah, they like in my area, the way it was managed, the palliative came, they brought the noodles, the spaghetti, the tissues and other things, they brought it to the community, and we had to strive that the part of the women must be removed. That was the first thing we did. Strive for that, and they removed that of the women and started to share the others to the other members of the community, though the women are still in the others.
Were women part of the distribution?
Yes, because I signed one of them to pick it from the distributing point.
Okay.
Yes, I was called. And somebody just put a call to me that, are you the president for Alauchi? I say yes. Okay, come over to Susupe. When I went there, I saw what the government did, and I inspected it and signed.
What was the quantity to each person? Was it adequate?
The quantity to each person is a household, maybe 5 pieces of noodles.
A household of how many people?
A household of sometimes 7, mother and children, and also a spaghetti, maybe 2 packs, not a carton, a pack. Yeah. And maybe 3-4 cups of curry for a family.
What do you think should be done to improve the life of people in your community?
Okay, after the pandemic, I would like to see this happen in my community. I would like to see families coming back to live together again, the way it used to be. I would also like to see, I would like people not to be a community with clean drinking water. Yeah, I would like people not to be a well-sanitized place. What do I mean by that? People is experiencing a very serious thing now, the open defecation. People defecate anyhow, anywhere you find yourself. They can just do it and go. So I think I would like even not to be a clean environment in the future. I also want, though it's a federal government thing to flare this, they have a hand in it. In fact, they are the coach, they are the key players. So I think I will want, let it be reduced. Because like these other companies that are coming, they are coming to flare their own gas also. So I think I would like to see a community that they flare gas, we can't stop them now, but I think since the campaign is still going, we are going to stop them. But since they are still flaring the gas, they should pay adequate compensation to the community people.
My name is Tura Nikere. I'm from Humboldt government area. I don't have anything for now, but I engage in activism. I'm affiliated with Agriculture Women Development Center, and most of the time that is where I spent and have some ideas and experiences about activism.
So what are the main issues or challenges that your community experiences? Or maybe the main issue, since you have mentioned female youth,
What are the issues that female youths
All right. One of the challenges we have is the public attitude towards female, in particular the women and the girls, children, wherein family don't really recognize the role of females. And in terms of family sharing or paternal inheritance, female children are always absolute. They are not always recognized. That is one of the challenges we are facing as female children in our families and in our community as a whole. But generally, the challenge we are having there is as a result of some of the issues, some of the activities of companies that have been there before that is giving us scarcity of water because our water sources have been polluted. And then most times we trek a very long distance to get drinkable water. And even at that, you discover that most times when you go there, the water is full and you can't even enter because it's more or less like a river, not stream. So that is one of the major challenges the community is facing.
How did the women fare with all these issues during the COVID-19 lockdown?
So very challenging anyway. It's something that I don't know how to talk about it or how to say it. The women in particular suffers from the, will I use the word shock because to me it came as a shock. Somebody just waking up and somebody is telling you are not to go out when you don't have any other thing doing. You needed to go out. Personally, I do bake, I do meat pie and all those things, and I do make hair. And I don't have a shop. Most times when I do those things, I supply to my customers. Some of them will put a call through and I'll prepare it for them. So when I heard the news that we'll be locked in for the first 2 weeks, I was like, it's not possible, but it was a reality. So I woke up one day, I wanted to go and make my customer head. I just put a call through and I was not allowed to go out. I went outside and no vehicle, no bike to carry me. Everybody was going inside. I went to a chopper, police said, go inside. Where is your face mask? The face mask. To some extent, there was a day I went out, I was arrested by some policemen and I was told to pay 2,000 naira to bail myself because I didn't use face mask. So, and I did because I can't experience staying.
You gave cash to the
I gave, yes, I gave. It was on the road. I gave before they could even allow me move. So it was so challenging and it brought difficulty, hunger, most especially. Our ladies felt frustrated.
Considering the fact that there is no water and then you have to be washing your hands regularly. So how did you feel about that? How did you cope?
Well, to me, if I don't have water, you can't kill me. Because a bucket of water in my community is 20 naira. During that lockdown, that was how it was sold, and it's still 20 naira till today because of the lockdown. You don't expect me to carry 20 naira and buy a rubber of water, and then you tell me to be washing my hands for nothing. I'm not doing anything, I'm not touching anything. You just say I should wash my hands because I want to go out, I want to enter a place. I say I should wash my hands. To me, it was awful. It was like, are these people thinking rightly? But I was forced to do it, especially when I go to church. I was forced to because I needed to worship God, and I did it. But at home, it was very challenging, and I must confess, 99.9% of us in the community didn't adhere to that instruction.
Were there available health services that somebody can easily go? Were there isolation centers?
There was nothing
testing
like
centers
that.
close to?
There was nothing like that in our community. We have just one primary health center.
Is it functional?
It's functional, but we don't have any testing facility there. So if you go with any symptoms of cough, the first thing they will do is to refer you to the general hospital, which is not even in our community, which is like you need to pass like 3 local governments before you get to the general hospital.
So in the case of the lockdown, where movement was restricted, how were people accessing health services?
That was a major challenge we had also because even when you have malaria, you can die of that malaria because there was no access to medical care. So And even most times when you want to attempt entering that primary health center, the protocols there will even make you to go back. So in fact, when you get there, to even see the nurse, for the nurses to even come to attend to you. So they were that reluctant to some extent to attend to patients because they themselves were scared of contacting the virus.
Did you get help from anywhere?
From
Did you or other women within the community get help from any form of help?
Is it from the government or from who?
Anywhere.
I think government are the major people to help us, but they couldn't come to our help. Even when we heard about the palliative, so personally, it has not even entered any of my family members' household. So my aunties, none of them got it.
So how was it distributed?
I don't know. I just heard that something like that has been brought, that the village head has collected some. We don't even know the quantity, how it was distributed, but I think it was political. So
Can you throw more light for how, in what ways, why do you think it did not get to your family or it did not get to your community?
that is why I said it could be that the thing was politically distributed.
Okay.
Because I don't know, I have not seen it. By right, the thing was supposed to be taken to the village council or village hall and distributed by what or by unit, whatever means, because we have our own pattern of distribution at village. When a particular item is brought, you take it to the village council, the elders will have their own share, the women will have their own share, with the youth will have their own share, but it was not done that way. So you will just hear that that woman there collected 6 cups of rice from village head. And so we were like, is this what was sent? Because from what we've gathered, that they have sent some noodles, some rice, some gari, but to some it's just someone will collect just 10 cups of rice. Some will say I got 5, some will say I got salt and 2 cups of so to me, my family house, my household, nobody got it. So my aunties, none of them. So I think it was political.
Okay, what changes will you like to see in the future after the COVID-19 pandemic?
If I want to recommend, please, next time when we have issues like this, government should please allow farmers to go to farm. Enable farmers, enable youth, enable women. Women are the future of any country. Enable the women. Because if women are not empowered, then that country is likely to die in the nearest future. Let government enable women. Let them empower the youth. Let them allow farmers to go and farm. Let anything locked down not disrupt farming processes. Because price of foodstuff was rising from one second, the next minute from 1 naira, the next minute 10 naira, the next minute. So it was very embarrassing that even when you have access to one, you have to buy it high. So please, and the excuse they were giving was that foodstuffs are not allowed to enter. Even when there was a rumor that foodstuffs are giving that access, but it was not there. So please, government should not stop farmers from farming. They should always empower women in terms of in conditions like that, so that we will not find it difficult, so that it will reduce the level of violence.
So what specifically do you think government should do for farmers?
I think if government should give farmers incentive, it will be better. I don't think the idea of government giving farmers loan is the best option. Let's give farmers incentive.
What kind of incentive?
Yes, for farmers that need seeds, give them seeds. Farmers that need fertilizers, give them. Farmers that need space, like land to cultivate, give them. Because if there is no land, I might have that passion to farm, but I don't have a farmland, I don't have a piece of land, I cannot farm. So if there is a farmland, government land should be distributed. Just cut a sizable portion of plots, give it to people that wants to farm. Enable them with seeds or whatever they need, like tractor if they need it, whatever they need. Let them farm. It will help to boost the economy of the nation.
As a pregnant girl, what challenges did you face during the COVID lockdown, and how did you deal with it?
My name is Livelihoods Adam. I work with Quebec Women Development and Resource Center. I am 23 years old.
I was seriously affected by the COVID-19 pandemic, especially when the lockdown was set in our community. I couldn't access proper health care. I couldn't see my doctor. As a new mother, I needed to go and see her at least once in a month or once in 2 weeks. But I couldn't see her. Even when I had issues, I had pains under my abdomen, I just communicate with her through the phone, which most times I wasn't even okay with it because she would talk to me on phone. But if she sees me physically, she'll be able to explain better. Me, I'll be able to understand better. And maybe if she touches me on where I'm having the pains, she'll be able to know where the pains are. And most times she told me to, there's some drugs she told me to take, but I couldn't buy them because all the pharmacies around here, all the pharmacy around here, they locked down too because they are scared. Even when they said if you know your importer, you can open. But the pharmacies around our community here, most of them, none of them were open. We have about 5 on our streets. All of them were on lockdown. So when she tell me to buy a particular drug, I can't even buy. I can't even my routine drugs finished. I couldn't even buy. So I had to stay like that and was just eating normal food and was believing that everything will be okay and fine. Even most times she called and told me to take some fruits. Told me to take oranges, watermelon. She called many foods I could take that will help me and help my baby, at least for strength. But even the fruits, nowhere to buy them during the lockdown. I was just eating the normal local rice we had, the normal beans, the normal yam, mostly carbohydrate. I couldn't even take the 6 classes of food because they were not even accessible. So nowhere, the market, they were shut down. Even she said I should take mostly vegetables. Nowhere to get vegetables. I just have to go to the back. One of our neighbors that planted vegetables at the back. I have to go to the back and ask for some. So I got them, but I don't take the vegetables every day because I can't go every day to ask the woman for her vegetables because she needs them too. I couldn't get fruits I need. I couldn't get eat properly. So I was seriously affected. And I know that even as I was taking all that thing, I just believed that I'll be fine and my baby will be fine. So I wasn't really bothered. I just had to stay calm. How did I cope? I know when I was in the house, lots of Zoom meetings were going on, lots of online meetings. We were just with our phones. We were people that had data that could access data. We were recharging, browsing. I was reading some things online that helped me. Then also Kedekase too. They conducted lots of Zoom meeting on issues, impact of COVID-19 on women. So when I heard how women share their experiences, I heard most women speak. I heard how they say they were coping. I was also encouraged. I said, these women, since they were able to cope during the pandemic and everything, I think I too I'll be able to cope. So most times I make sure that I don't miss the Zoom meetings. When I see it advertised online, I make sure that at least I have data on my phone to communicate. So I make sure that anytime I see that Zoom meeting, I log in, listen very well because it's very, very important to me as a new mother, at least to hear the experiences of other women that has been there before and many other things.
Were you aware that the state governor provided a helpline that people who are sick could reach out to pharmacy to get medication?
I heard about it, but I didn't call the number anytime. I heard about it, but I didn't call.
How far is your doctor from where you live? How long does it take you to reach there on a normal day?
I stay in town and my doctor is in Adagio, which is about 45 minutes plus before I can get to where my doctor is. Why I have to go that far to register there is because there in town the health centers there are not fully equipped. I remember when I went to one of the health centers there, they didn't even have a scan machine. The nurses were not even there, so I couldn't risk my life and the life of my baby to register there. I had to go to a private hospital to register where I'm sure of their services and many people too have testified about them. So that was why I had to go that far to register in that hospital.
So my name is Constance Medu. I'm a chief and a very old journalist. People will say veteran. I've been in this field in the last 40 years. Wow. I just crossed into my 60 plus. So I can say I'm a senior citizen.
Yeah.
And most of this time, while I pursued the journalism, I have been pursuing issues around women and children because I started from the radio as a head of the Women and Children Unit, Radio Rivers Port Harcourt. I've been in River State most of the time since I started work, but I've also been involved in national issues and also international reporting. Niger Delta is my main focus area, and together with other organizations, especially Quebecasi, Center for Environment and Human Rights and Development said, we've been doing things with women in the communities, seeing how we can do something to improve their living condition. So that in a nutshell is the story of who I am. I'm a mother of one biological child, but mother of many.
The main issues and challenges affecting women and possibly affecting children before COVID-19.
Well, the issues affecting women in Nigeria have been issues of underdevelopment. Because one, we are very underrepresented in governance, so issues affecting women and children do not really make the top agenda of national governance. And what is the result? You find that many women are poor because women in the communities, they rely on agriculture, water, and land. And here in the Niger Delta, our water and our land, they are polluted. As we are talking today, I got calls yesterday that part of Ahoda, communities in Ahoda have been submerged. Communities in Bayelsa have been submerged by water. Flooding is a perennial problem. And what does it translate to? It means that after every season, you go back to start life from the basic. And when you do that, sustenance becomes a problem. So the issue that we had before COVID was that women lack financial strength. Poverty is high because of that. Hunger is high because of poverty and because of the devastation of our land and waterways. And there's a high level of illiteracy. Not many women and girls are educated. In fact, we have a high level of girls dropping out of school, especially in a state like Bayelsa. So that means that the poverty continues. You have in Bayelsa, you will have a grandmother, the daughter, and the daughter has just had another daughter, and they don't have a means of livelihood. So that was the situation before COVID. Secondly, for a region that has environmental challenges, we don't have good hospitals. We don't have drinking water. And that poses a lot of challenges. Sanitation, health. And in many communities that we have visited, especially the communities that are affected by the impact of pollution, which occurs almost every day and is not really addressed, women complained of health challenges like infertility, excess heat, skin diseases, cancer is on the rise. So for things like that, you need good health system, but we don't have it. If we want to be specific, the United Nations Environmental Program came to Nigeria, came to the Niger Delta at the request of the federal government, examined the level of pollution in the Niger Delta, came up with suggestions, one of which was that in some communities, the water they drink is so high in the zinc content that it is dangerous. That was in 2015. Today is 2020.
In 2011, the report.
The report was
Was released
2011. Okay, nothing was done until now. The people are still drinking that water. And if you combine the state of helplessness that was in existence before now to the COVID, you find that the COVID met Niger Delta women in a very helpless situation. I can tell you that they are more vulnerable than other parts of the country.
How did you feel about this situation?
How did I feel? I felt their helplessness. In fact, there was a small video
Yeah.
that was circulating from Bayelsa where a woman was shouting, "Open the gate, oh! Open the gate, hunger won't kill us, oh! Hungry, we dey hungry, we dey hungry." Because a state like Bayelsa depends on interrelation with other communities for a lot of things. They don't have drinking water, so they need people to bring in water. Food, they produce plantain, they produce sweet potato, fish, but they need garri. The woman was specific, bring garri, bring garri. That was her cry. And because of the level of want, the level of frustration and desperation, a woman went to harvest another person's plantain. And she was stripped, she was apprehended and dehumanized. The only good thing that came out of that was that other women from Ijaw women rallied around, raised money, and came to her aid. The lockdown brought hunger because people were not prepared. I, for one, I was in worry when my nephew sent me a text that the state government was going to lock the state in 2 days. We had to run down to come and escape being locked out. Yeah. So, and what happened? People were so helpless. I have a list of about 150 women in this Port Harcourt who could not feed, nursing mothers.
How women were leading in providing palliative, including yourself on their own pocket. Can you also talk about how women took the lead in addressing
organizations like FIDA said that there will be no bail for rape cases. So it was a tough time, but it also produced some tough actions from women. And we must not fail to acknowledge that in some communities, some positive things came. There were communities that took charge to see that the problem of hunger, because the government distribution of palliative was so horrible. In this estate, we got 2 packets of macaroni. One to our security man and one to one little girl there. The second security man didn't get anything. I said, macaroni, I have macaroni that I don't use. So I went in and brought and donated to him. But there were communities where people rallied and raised support. Like my community in Delta State of Washington. Individuals came out especially people in the diaspora.
Yeah.
They came, they were donating half bag of rice to each family, 5,000 cartons of Indomie. When you talk about the violence that women face,
Yes.
a lot of people, passing through boundaries,
Yes.
they face challenges because people are going to Myanmar to buy food, whether the boundary was closed or not. They go there, cross over, buy, come back, but they have to pay security, pay this, pay that. And in marketing their wares, a lot of women, they face serious challenges. Atumola came with two mobile policemen and the task force officials. Went to the market. First, there was this woman with her store. She sells handbags. There was nothing against her selling, but they just used power to say she was not supposed to display her bags outside. They packed some bags and they went to their farm. Then they went to where the Hausa man was selling yam. The ones he displayed
By the roadside.
They went there, carried a reasonable quantity of yam. And somebody was not saying, this thing is not good. They started beating up the boy. I was happy that the mother was so angry. She herself brought something and hit the policeman. Meanwhile, the task force official, the main person, was pouring oil on the ground, fufu, pouring them on the ground, stepping on food items of these women. And these are some of those things. They borrowed money
to buy
them. The women were just crying. Then remember that at the room of food, because they were pursuing them from selling and all, a policewoman was killed. What was her offense? He was telling them not to destroy the wells. Her fellow policeman just shot her. And she's a mother of a 4-year-old boy. She just died like that.
Esther Basi Okonitrecho. I am a 53-year-old woman. And I'm from this community. It's called Mkpanak. And the immediate community where we are now is called Utankara. This is Utankara Beach. And that is where you find all these canoes there.
Okay. So, what do you do for a living?
Well, before COVID-19, I was working with Pegasus schools, mobile Pegasus schools in Eket. I go from here to work. I joined the bus, the company bus from here to work, and I come back. But when COVID-19 set in, they called our authority and told them to stop our salary, that there will be no salary again, and that's how the job to stop. And since then, we've not been called back to work.
Okay, how long have you been working with the school?
19 years.
19 years, that's
Yes.
a long time.
Yes.
That's a long time. So before COVID-19 in your community, what were the main issues, particularly women's rights issues, or maybe issues around poverty and challenges that community members experience?
The challenges we experience here in this our community is that, as fishermen, we live by the sea and what the sea produces. And anytime they go to sea, it's not every time they can be able to catch something. So, and they fuel their boat to go to sea. And when they come back, at times they do not meet up with their expenses. So because of that, the cost of living becomes so high, because the women will buy at a high price, and with that they will also sell out at a high price to strangers that comes in to buy. So it doesn't allow the marketing aspect of life to flow as it should have been.
Yes. So how has this been affecting women in your community?
It's affecting women because most of the people doing this business, like you can see, are women. The place is not yet filled. You know, because from 2 p.m. or 3, you will see the place more filled than this. It is women that does the business, because it is the men that go to sea.
Yes.
They come back and sell to the women. And if they don't go to sea, the women will remain like that without anything. But if they go to sea, that's when the women also will have something to write home with. So at times they buy and it goes at a loss because of the cost they bought it for. And at times too, they buy, they make gains, you know. And you know too, and another impact it has created is because strangers comes in from and to buy directly from them, you know. So because of that, these women, you know, cannot meet up. They come to buy and they buy at a high rate, so that these women that used to have small income to buy with will not be able to buy the quantity they normally buy. So they lower the quantity, they lower the credit aspect of it. Mobile at first, when it came in, it started with the men. And any woman that time, my father used to tell us that any woman that will go for employment, they will not be employed. You know, they will not be employed because they say they are women. You know, that their job needs men, it needs able men, it needs more men with muscles, you know, because that the women will not be able to turn the pipes and do all those stuff. But as time goes on, education was able to give us that enlightenment, make us know that women can also do what the men do. So they started seeking the women because of education. Some women were more experienced than even the men they were employing. So they started employing the women. So at a time, you know, there were flocks of women and men in the company. The company was really moving well. But the aspect of the oil, it drops. There are times it drops, the cost of oil drops. And when it drops, it affects the salary of so many people. Because of that, they will go into retrenching a lot of people and not allow them to continue with their work again. So that is how it has been until when COVID-19 set in, it becomes even worse. They retrenched almost 70% of workers in QIT and they paid them off. Some say were not even paid off because of the condition of their work, because this work, it has a levels. It has, there are contract staff, there are regular staff, there are service staff. So those in service staff do not have any condition attached to them. So if they say your work is finished, your work is finished. No payoff, no nothing. But the contract staff, they will negotiate because they have a union they belong to. Their union will negotiate for them and they will be paid. Affect because at times they go on spillage. Their oil spills. It normally spills. Though it spills at the ocean, the water pressure will bring it. So, and it affects the fishermen because their net, when once their net is turned, you know, the oil has a scent, you know, and it sticks to the net. When once that net is turned, no fish comes closer to that net, you know, and so it will affect the fishermen. And because of that, we have been looking forward to how they can be paying compensation to all these fishermen, so that it will also help our women, because most of our women are boat owners. Yes. They own the boat and the nets inside, you know. So because of that, a lot of it affects them. When there is spillage like that, there will be no business for that time until maybe they drain the oil away or it flows and get out of the waterways, Nigerian waterways. But as far as it remains in Nigerian waterways, you know, it will still continue to affect the fishermen, and so too it will affect the women. Lockdown, there was a lot of experiences. People were not too good at going out. They don't move out freely, you know, and there's this restriction from either the government or the council, and if you go outside their instruction, yes, the task force will set in and it will, even I witnessed it one day in a market where a pregnant woman was killed instantly because of task force. Task force were now pursuing people. Even when I was shouting at her, don't run because of her pregnancy, she was still running. And at a time she started, when I shouted too much on her, she waited. At the place she waited, if she had waited there, she wouldn't have died. But when she was trying to get away again from the crowd, you know, the force of the crowd pushed her down and they marched on her. She died instantly. With I think 7 to 8 months pregnancy, almost due. And we learned later, because I was there, I was told to say a little about what I saw. So I learned from there. Some people that knew the woman said the husband works offshore and the husband is offshore and he has been quarantined there. They are not allowed to come back. So you see, issues like that, it affects women too much. It did affect the fishing people because they didn't go to sea. There was a town crier sent in by the village head to go around and say no boat should go out for sea. If you are caught in the sea, you know what it means and all those stuff. And you know, at times the task force will come in here, they will drive in and disguise themselves and try to embarrass you. We see people running up and down. So even when they said go with your face mask and to protect yourself, you know, they will come. When they come, even with people's face mask, you know, people will still be afraid, you know, because they said if they catch you, you go and pay 10,000 naira. So that was what was going on throughout that time.
So how were women coping with washing of hands and wearing masks?
Initially, it was difficult, very, very difficult. When you tell them, even in the church, because I happen to be one of the a church outstanding person, so we were given instruction as women leaders to go and make sure we give them the awareness and try to make sure they wash their hands. But when you start talking, and even the old ones will tell those old women, stay at home, don't come to, they said no, how can they stay at home? At times when they come, they don't allow them to go in from the gates. They will wait by the gate there, and people will make, the priest will say, allow them to come in. What will we do? It's not our fault. Let them just come in, you know. So when they are allowed to come in, that's social distancing. We'll be sitting maybe 3 because we have a long pew. 3 in a pew, 3 in a pew, and the pew will be maybe separated from each other. So that was what happened.
Does the church have a hand washing point?
Very well. The church is just here. That's the church. You know, it's just here. It has, even up till now, if you go there, the sanitizer and the what. So now, since they have been able to go through the awareness, so they will wash their hands and make sure they are on their face mask before they come inside the church.
By the lockdown, did it affect
yes.
the relationships
yes.
in the family?
Yes, it did affected us. It affected the family seriously, because even our children abroad were calling us and saying, please don't go to people's houses. So even your relations, they will not be seeing you, and that thing safe. Even person like me, I don't go to people's houses anyhow. I don't go. Even when they call for family meeting, there was one of us that died. Unfortunately, she has not been buried up till now, because the time the children would have buried her, that was when that lockdown really came in. And we said, if you will allow the family alone to be there at the burial, this thing, then we bury her. But if you still need a crowd, then you have to wait. You know, so now the children, 2 of them have been quarantined. They don't come back, so that's why the corpse is still there. So it affects the family again in the aspect of family meetings. You know, normally family, we go for family meetings monthly. So we don't go for family. We now use phone to talk. We put ourselves on conference and we talk. If it is family that does not have phones, so what do? So it really affects the family. It doesn't allow things to flow the way it normally goes again.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Were there issues of domestic violence or sexual abuse
yes.
in your community?
Yeah, there were issues like that, but these issues, you know, when taken to the police station, you know, it will be handled is either they say the woman is framing up, because most of these issues was happening between the Yorubas and our children, being that they are women like people, they like women. So when they take to the, maybe the woman had said, okay, you will give me a certain amount as a girlfriend, and sexual abuse does not only mean when you go to force a girl that you don't know, and sexual abuse has to do even with husband and wife, because when you force your wife to eat and it's not at her own agreement, then that is sexual abuse. Yes. So in a girlfriend and a boyfriend, it happens. So but we had to go around to give them that awareness, when the governor says spell that a day for that. So we went around to give them that awareness. We were going around almost from houses to houses. If you see anything like that, report it and all those stuff. So that was what happened here in even our local government.
Very interesting.
Yes, at the community level, we were able to meet with the paramount ruler, and he calls all the chief in charge of all the communities, because we have 24 gazetted villages here in Ibno. He called all of them, and we gave them that awareness, and said, as from today henceforth, anything like that, report it. We direct the calls out, or the report to where they are supposed to make the reports to. And since then, things like that has reduced. Okay. It's not alarming as it used to be again. Okay. Even because of that, some movements were restricted.
For the COVID-19 responses, are there any organizations that carried out any intervention here that you related with?
Well, apart from the church, and some groups of cooperatives, that when they go for their meetings and all those stuff, then a women group in the village, when they go for their social gathering, yes, so those are the people
at times when it's women groups in the community, you think they are not contributing.
No, they are contributing. They are contributing, like these are our own, they are contributing. And that's why too a lot of things is being restricted, like this beach, it used to be so dirty, but they make it as a point of duty. When I come every weekend, I gather some women who are every male, if you've been doing business here, as you are coming in with your basket, you have to clean it up, so yeah, that's how it is.
Thank you. So what changes will you like to see in your community to improve the life of the people after the COVID-19 pandemic?
Well, the changes I would really love to see is how to assist these women to upgrade their business. Most of them, the finance is not much for them to be able to do this business. They will go at I will give you money tomorrow, or I will give you next week. And if they are not fortunate to sell their goods to bring this money, it becomes problem. Like day before yesterday, there was a fight here because a woman could not pay for the crayfish she bought, all those stuff. So when I was told, I now called for the guy that made the trouble with her. I said, she's been buying from you and paying from you. Why is it that today she could not pay you and you didn't see reasons with her? So when I told, he said because of the way she responded to him when he asked the money, and that's what flared him up. Will be assisted by the state government or the federal government. That just little loan or grants, it will boost their business and also make them happy, because like you are watching us, they are watching us do this. When we finish here in the evening, they will gather to ask me what and what are they bringing us money, you see. So that's the kind of impression they will have. So that's what I am that's one of the then two, the health wise, you see, like the flare, we have the flare here. If I scoop the water that rain, that you put container under the rain, you see that it's dark. We don't have good drinking water here. We don't have good drinking water. Mobile are supposed to give us good drinking water, because their water there is treated. They should extend it to us. But each time they are doing that kind of project, they don't complete it. And even NDDC that says they are coming to remedy, they are even coming to make it worse for us, you know. And with this flare, you know that it has not been included in the petroleum industrial bill, how the flare can be managed and how they can take care of us. Because of this flare, you know, so many people are having asthma and all those stuff, you know, and this thing kills fast, because if you are not there to assist your patients, before you know it, that's all. That is it. Then arthritis is setting in, because people are not allowed to move around the way they used to move. You know, like we are now, once it is 8 o'clock, everybody is inside. No movement again. There are people that, you know, that time, you know, like going to the church freely, you know, an old woman, it will take an old woman's time to use her staff to move gently, small. Then if it has a certain time kept, like now, like it's happening now, for them to reach their house, you know, it affects them, so they don't move around. So it makes them have arthritis. That's what, even me, do you know, I had to have arthritis setting seriously with Gran. It will help the woman. The women of this village, of this community, will be very happy. Will be very happy with the federal government.
My name is Idong Smart, a program officer, Kebekase Women Development and Resource Center here in Port Harcourt.
Can you tell me your experience during the COVID-19 lockdown with the task force?
Well, as a woman, my experience with the task force was very frustrating, was not a good one. It was, the activities of task force in the state was very inhuman. They did not have any human sympathy when they were dealing with people, especially the community women. You can see the way they were destroying their goods, pouring people's market, pouring kerosene in people's food. And we all know that as at that time, it was a very difficult moment for everybody. Everybody was struggling to survive. Every family was struggling to feed their family and their children. And you will see task force without atom of human sympathy destroying these women's food. Sometimes they even beat them, push them down, pour sand on their food without them having pity for them. And you see the way elderly women who are old enough to be their mothers or even their grandmother begging them, telling them that this is the only way they survive, they can feed their family. So my experience with task force during COVID-19 was nothing to drive home about. There was no joy. You know, last year there was heavy flood all over the Niger Delta. Most communities were seriously affected with flood, whereby anything that was planted was not yielding good. So coupled with COVID-19, added with flood of last year, and COVID-19 appeared this year all of a sudden, unannounced. Nobody expected that there would be COVID-19 in 2020. People were still looking for a way to manage to survive with the difficulties of last year's flood. COVID-19 showed up, and you can see that families were finding it very difficult to eat. Parents were finding it very difficult to feed their children, and it led to so many things. It led to quarrels, it led to fighting, it led to so many things. Divorce in families, it even led to killing. Some families killed, some husbands killed their wife out of hunger. Some mothers beat their children and got them wounded out of anger, not because they planned, not because they wanted to do, but because of frustration, because of they did not plan and they don't have what to eat or to feed the family. Like in Kebekase, we did so many things in order to relieve some of the pain from the community women. Kebekase even go as far as giving relief material, sending food, even kind of throw cash. I remember Kebekase sent cash to so many community women, because so many of them, because they could not come out this way. So we have to do transfer, send them money for them to be able to feed their families and take care of their families. So COVID-19 was pandemic that really threw everybody off balance. Even as a woman I am, I did not expect it. Even me myself, I find it difficult to feed, if not for the help of my organization, that in one way or the other, they supported us, to, during that first lockdown. Office has to give us allowances so that we can take care of ourselves. So you can imagine a community woman who did not have help, nobody to take care of them, nobody to support. How do you think they will survive? So security men, task force, they did not help issues. They really add salt to injury by destroying their means of livelihood. Some of them, their market is their only means of livelihood. Look at this year, 2020 again. We were still talking of COVID-19. From March to July, people were not living fine. People were not eating. And from September, flood started again in the Niger Delta. And you can see that so many families don't have food to eat. Now, families are calling us from all nooks and crannies for help. They are calling Kebekasi for help because flood has taken part of Ahoda West, Ahoda East, Abua, Onelga. So many communities, flood has taken over these communities, and the community women are beckoning on Kebekasi for help. So as Kebekasi, we have done so many things. We were doing Zoom meeting to see how we can cope with all this situation with some of the women. We did so many things to ensure that we were able to relieve some of their pains in one way or the other. We were able to do it. So Kebekasi, in their own personal way, have tried to relieve some of the pains from the community women. Right now, they are calling us to come and help them for flood. And right now, Kebekasi are planning. We are even planning a meeting to meet with the government officials to see how they can respond to this situation, to see how they can bring relief materials, food items to the flood victims in the community. We are planning a meeting to meet with the community women and bring them together to meet with some of the government officials like Ministry of Environment, Ministry of Women Affairs, Ministry of Works, Ministry of Special Duties, and NEMA, to see how we can, build synergy, to see how we can help the flood victims in different communities. So far, that is what we are trying to do, and as an organization, and that is what we have done as an organization.
During the course of this research, we have talked to women and find out how they were organizing within the period, and specifically there was increased rate of violence against women during the COVID-19 lockdown. And people attributed that to the fact that before the lockdown, people never used to stay for 24 hours in the house for family members, but in a situation where family members had to be compelled to stay together within a house, and for a couple of weeks or a couple of months, that there were actually some level of friction and conflict. This actually resulted in increased reported cases. I'm sure there are so many other cases that were not reported, but a lot of cases were reported. There were incidents where fathers were actually sexually abusing their daughters. There were incidents where cousins, elderly cousins, were abusing their underage female cousins. There were incidents where husbands were beating up their wives. One of the cases reported to Kebekasi that we had to try to mediate was a situation where a husband beat up the wife because she went to the market and returned late. But the wife explained that because of market closure, that she had to move from one place to the other, and in a situation of a lockdown, it was not easy moving from one place to another when there are task force and policemen everywhere trying to compel people to comply to the restriction of movement. But that incident brought a misunderstanding and a fight in the house where the woman was beaten up with cable. All her body, there were wounds. We had to take the case to the police. We have still not resolved the issue because the lady has decided she cannot continue in that relationship. There are several other instances like that. Some churches reported that they were handling issues of misunderstandings within the families. Some other civil society organizations also had reported cases of misunderstandings and violence within the society, within families. And then there was a radio discussion by West African Network for Peace Building, of which Kebekasi is a member. and I am the South Zonal Coordinator. That radio discussion ran through the period of the lockdown, trying to create awareness about incidents of violence and also creating awareness about where people can get counseling, where people can get legal support, where people can get psychosocial support to be able to survive the impact of violence. There was actually a nationwide protest against violence to show the extent to which violence against women increased during the lockdown period. Different states took turns. In Rivers State, we all wore black. I remember it was raining heavily. I left my house very early in the morning, went to House of Assembly, waited for the other people to convene, and then we had to read address in front of the House of Assembly, and the team also moved to meet the Commissioner of Police. In Akwa Ibom, the two states where we conducted the research, there was that protest against violence against women, to the extent that several states within the period signed into law the Violence Against Persons Prohibition Bill in the state. It is now left for women rights organizations and other civil society organizations to ensure that that law is implemented.